You know that feeling when you realize everything you believed was a lie? I found this hidden under my bed on a Tuesday morning. A listening device. Someone had been recording my private conversations, my intimate moments, everything. Only 3 people had access to my apartment: my brother, my boyfriend, and my mother. What I discovered next would destroy my family and set me free. I always thought I had my life figured out. At 28, I was running a successful online fashion boutique from my apartment in San Diego, pulling in 6 figures a year doing something I loved. I had a wonderful boyfriend, a supportive family, and a beautiful apartment that I'd worked so hard to afford. Life was good, or so I thought. My name is Diana Martinez, and I'm about to tell you the story of how I discovered that the person I trusted most in this world had been listening to my every word, watching my every move, and controlling my life in ways I never could have imagined. It started on a Tuesday morning, one of those perfect San Diego mornings, where the sun streams through your windows and everything feels possible. I was cleaning my apartment, getting ready for a photo shoot for my boutique's new summer collection. I'd built this business from nothing, designing every piece myself, modeling the clothes, managing the social media. It was my baby, and it was finally taking off. I was vacuuming under my bed when my hand brushed against something stuck to the underside of the bed frame. At first, I thought it was just old gum or tape, but when I pulled it free and looked at it, my blood ran cold. It was a small black device, about the size of a USB drive, with a tiny LED light on one side. I'm not a tech expert, but I watch enough crime shows to know what this was. This was a listening device. Someone had been recording me. My hands started shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. I sat there on my bedroom floor, my mind racing. How long had it been there? What had it recorded? Who had planted it? And that's when the terrifying thought hit me. Only 3 people had access to my apartment. My mother, Margaret, who had a key and knew my door code. She'd raised my brother and me alone after Dad died when I was 10. She'd worked 2 jobs, sacrificed everything to give us a good life. She was protective sometimes, overly so, but she loved us fiercely. There's no way she would do this, right? My younger brother, Stephen, who also knew the code and came by regularly to help with my business. He handled website maintenance and inventory management. Yeah, we'd had our issues. Sometimes he resented that it was my business, my name on everything. But planting a listening device? That seemed crazy. And then there was Marcus. We'd met at a downtown club about a year ago. He was charming, successful, originally from the East Coast, but now working in import-export here in San Diego. Early in our relationship, he'd borrowed $50,000 from me for a business loan. He said he'd paid me back, and I believed him without even checking. Someone I loved had violated my privacy in the most invasive way possible. I carefully placed the device back exactly where I'd found it and grabbed my purse. I couldn't stay there, not knowing who it was. I drove straight to my mother's house in the suburbs. She opened the door before I even got out of the car. She always seemed to know when something was wrong. "Diana, sweetheart, what are you doing here? I thought you had a photo shoot today." We sat at her kitchen table, the same table, where I'd done homework as a kid, where we'd celebrated holidays, where she'd told Stephen and me that Dad had died. "I found a listening device in my apartment," I said, watching her face carefully. "Hidden under my bed." Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "What? Are you serious?" "Diana, that's horrible. Do you know who did it?" "No," I said, studying her reaction. She seemed genuinely shocked. But I couldn't be sure. "Can I stay here for a few days? I can't be in that apartment." Of course. But Diana, you need to call the police. I can't. Not yet. Mom, whoever did this had access to my apartment. It's someone close to me. If I go to the police, it could ruin my business reputation. This was partly true, but mostly I was terrified of the answer. I didn't want to know which person I loved had betrayed me. Then hire a private investigator, Mom said firmly. Someone discreet who can figure this out without making it public. Looking back now, I realize she probably had her own reasons for suggesting a private investigator instead of the police. That's how I ended up in Jack Morrison's office the next day. He was exactly what you'd picture, probably in his late 50s. Gray hair, weathered face, eyes that had seen too much. But there was kindness there, too. "Tell me everything," he said. "Don't leave out details because you think they're not important." In cases like this, every detail matters. So I told him about my business, my family dynamics, how protective Mom had always been, Stephen's resentment, Marcus, and the loan. I laid my whole life out for this stranger. "Diana," Mr. Morrison said gently, "I need to be honest with you. In my experience, listening devices in homes are almost always planted by someone very close to the victim, someone who has regular access and knows your routines. The statistics aren't on your side here." "I know," I whispered. "That's what makes this so terrible." "We'll figure this out, but you need to be prepared that the answer might be someone you never suspected. Can you handle that?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I could. Mr. Morrison called in his son Jake, a younger guy with trendy glasses, who looked more like a tech entrepreneur than a detective. "Jake will retrieve the device and see what's on it. These things usually have internal storage. We might be able to see when it was planted and what it's recorded." That evening, Jake went to my apartment and retrieved the device. He also installed hidden cameras throughout my place in the living room, bedroom, hallway, and covering the front door. The plan was simple. Whoever planted the bug might come back to check on it, and we'd catch them. For 3 days, I went about my business as normally as I could. I went to my studio for photo shoots, posted on social media, responded to orders. I smiled for the camera, chatted with followers, acted like everything was fine. But inside I was dying. Every conversation felt monitored. Every moment felt exposed. What had they heard? My business calls? My private moments with Marcus? My conversations with friends about things I'd never want anyone to know? The not knowing was eating me alive. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I jumped every time my phone rang. On the third day, I mentioned to Mom that I was going to dinner with Marcus. I watched her face carefully. Was that concern I saw, or was I just being paranoid? "That's wonderful, honey," she said, but something in her voice seemed off. "Just don't rush into anything, okay? Your life is here." That evening, Marcus and I went to our favorite Italian place. He could tell something was wrong. "Diana, you've barely touched your food." "What's going on? You've been distant for days." "I'm just stressed about the business," I lied. "We're entering our busy season." "You always worry too much," he said, taking my hand. "Your business is amazing. You're amazing. Everything's going to be fine." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to tell him about the listening device. But what if it was him? What if this man I was falling in love with was the one who'd violated my privacy? When I got back to Mom's house, Mr. Morrison called. "Diana, we've had some developments." Jake reviewed the footage. "Someone came by while you were out." My heart stopped. "Who?" "Marcus." He let himself in with his key. "Oh, God," I breathed. "What did he do?" "He went to your bedroom, checked under the bed, then went through your dresser and took something out. What did he take? I felt sick. A photograph. It looked like a picture of you two together. And then he spent about 5 minutes fixing your bed. It was wobbling, and he used playing cards as shims to level it. I couldn't help it, I laughed. It was such a Marcus thing to do. He was always fixing little things around my apartment. So he's not your guy, Mr. Morrison said. Someone checking surveillance equipment doesn't stop to fix furniture. We also ran a background check. Everything checks out. His business is legitimate. And Diana? That $50,000? He paid it back 6 months ago, just like he said. Relief flooded through me. After we hung up, I logged into my bank account. There it was, a deposit for $50,000, dated 6 months earlier. Marcus was innocent, which meant it had to be Stephen or Mom, my brother or my mother. If you're finding the story compelling, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us share more important stories like this one. Now, let's continue with what happened next. The next day brought an even more disturbing discovery. Mr. Morrison called again, his voice grim. Diana, we've got another development, and this one's not good. We caught someone else entering your apartment, someone who definitely shouldn't have been there. Who? My voice came out as a whisper. Brian Walker, your landlord. My stomach dropped. Brian was always so nice, always bringing me coffee, always offering to help with maintenance issues. He'd seemed like such a good guy. He has a master key to all the apartments. We watched him on camera going through your personal belongings, lying on your bed, smelling your pillow. Diana, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What we saw was deeply disturbing. This man has been stalking you. I felt violated all over again. Did he plant the device? That's what we thought at first. We confronted him. He's now in police custody, but he claims he didn't plant it. Says he found it when he came in to fix a leak 3 weeks ago. He listened to some recordings and then started coming back regularly. That's disgusting! I believe him when he says he didn't plant it. The device has been there longer than 3 weeks. Brian Walker will face charges for what he did, but he's not our original suspect. So we were back to square one. Stephen or Mom. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my childhood bed at Mom's house, staring at the ceiling, thinking back over the years, looking for clues I'd missed. The truth is, there had been warning signs. I'd just chosen to ignore them. When I was 26 and told Mom I wanted to move out, she'd cried. Not just teared up, she'd sobbed like I was dying. Why do you want to leave me? Haven't I been a good mother? Mom, it's not about you. I'm 26. It's time for my own space. This is normal. But she wouldn't hear it. For weeks, she called multiple times a day, crying, asking me to reconsider. I sacrificed everything for you and Stephen. I worked 2 jobs. I gave up my own life. And this is how you repay me? By abandoning me? The guilt had been overwhelming. I'd almost given up on the idea entirely. Stephen had convinced me to go through with it. Diana, you have to move out. Mom's never going to let go unless you force her to. Trust me. I've been trying to move out for 2 years, and she sabotages it every time. What do you mean, sabotage? Every time I save enough for a deposit, suddenly there's an emergency that requires money. The car breaks down. The roof needs repairs. It's always something. Diana, I'm starting to think these emergencies aren't real. I think she creates them to keep me dependent. At the time, I'd thought Stephen was being paranoid. But now I wondered if he'd been right. When I finally moved out 2 years ago, Mom made it difficult. She insisted I give her a key for emergencies. She showed up unannounced constantly. She'd made too much food. She was in the neighborhood. She'd found something of mine. At first, I found it endearing, but after a few months, it felt suffocating. I couldn't have friends over without her potentially showing up. My apartment never felt fully like my own space. And the phone calls. Mom called me at least 5 times a day. If I didn't answer, she'd keep calling. Once, I was in an important video meeting with a potential investor. I'd put my phone on silent. By the time the meeting ended an hour later, I had 17 missed calls from Mom. When I called back, she was hysterical. "Where were you? Why weren't you answering? I thought something terrible had happened. I was about to call the police." "Mom, I was in a business meeting. I'm fine. You can't call 17 times in an hour. That's not normal." "Not normal? I'm your mother. I worry about you. Is it so wrong to want to know my daughter is safe?" And there it was, the guilt trip that made me feel unreasonable for wanting basic boundaries. I'd apologized to her for not answering during a business meeting. I thought about how Mom always seemed to know things I hadn't told her. I'd chalked it up to Mother's intuition. But what if she'd been listening all along? There was the time I'd been considering hiring a business manager. I'd only mentioned it in a phone call with my accountant. But the next day, Mom brought it up. "I heard you're thinking about hiring someone." "Why?" "You have Stephen. Family is always better than strangers." I'd assumed Stephen mentioned it. But what if he hadn't? Or when Marcus and I talked in my apartment about maybe visiting his family on the East Coast. The next morning, Mom called, upset. "You're not thinking about going to the East Coast with Marcus, are you? That's such a long trip. Anything could happen." When I'd asked how she knew, she'd said, "You must have mentioned it and forgotten." But I didn't forget things like that. And I definitely hadn't told her. How long had this been going on? How many of my private moments had been violated? The next morning, Mr. Morrison called. "Diana, we need to talk. Can you come to my office? And don't tell anyone where you're going." The tone in his voice made my blood run cold. "Did you find something?" "Just come to the office. We'll explain everything when you get here." I told Mom I had to meet with a fabric supplier and drove to Mr. Morrison's office, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. When I walked in, both Mr. Morrison and Jake were there, looking serious. "Sit down, Diana," Mr. Morrison said gently. "What we're about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear." Jake pulled up his laptop and turned it toward me. We cracked the password on the device. It was 8:15. "August 15th, I said automatically. "That's the date my father died." "We know, and that's significant, because it means whoever planted this knew intimate family details. But there's more." The device had deleted files we recovered. "This device has been used before." "What do you mean?" 3 years ago. And the recordings from 3 years ago aren't of you, Diana. They're of Stephen." I felt like the floor had dropped out. Someone bugged Stephen 3 years ago? "The same device, the same person," Mr. Morrison confirmed. "Which means this isn't about you specifically. This is about control. Someone in your family has been monitoring both of you." "But who would?" I trailed off as the realization hit me. There was only one person who had been in both our lives constantly, who had access to both our homes, who knew intimate family details. "We think it's your mother," Mr. Morrison said quietly. "No," I said immediately. "No, that's impossible. My mother would never—" "Diana, I know this is hard. But look at the evidence. She's the one person with motive, means, and opportunity for both incidents. She has keys to your apartment. She knows your routines. And from what you've told me about her behavior, the constant calling, the inability to let you or Stephen live independently, the emotional manipulation, this fits a pattern." I shook my head. tears streaming down my face. She's my mother. She raised us alone. She sacrificed everything. She wouldn't spy on us. Diana, Jake said gently, we need to catch whoever did this in the act. Tonight, tell your mother you're spending the evening with Marcus. Then we'll watch your apartment. If she goes there, we'll know. I wanted to refuse, but deep down, things were starting to make sense in a way I didn't want them to. Mom's overprotectiveness, her devastation when Stephen and I moved out, the way she always seemed to know things I hadn't told her. That evening, I went through the motions. I had dinner with Mom and Stephen. My brother had no idea what was happening and casually mentioned meeting Marcus later. You're spending a lot of time with him lately, Mom said, and there was an edge to her voice. Are things getting serious? Maybe, I said, watching her face. He's been talking about the future, about us getting married, maybe moving to the East Coast where his family is. I watched the color drain from Mom's face. Moving? Diana, you can't move. Your business is here. Your family is here. You can't just leave us. Mom, it's just a possibility. But I could see it in her eyes, panic. Raw panic at the thought of losing me. After dinner, I left for my date. But instead of meeting Marcus, I drove to Mr. Morrison's office where we would monitor the cameras together. We didn't have to wait long. Less than an hour after I left, the door to my apartment opened, and there, on the camera screen, was my mother. I watched, feeling like I was going to be sick, as Mom walked directly to my bedroom. She knew exactly where she was going. She reached under the bed frame and pulled out the listening device, examined it, and this is what broke me, she smiled. She actually smiled as she checked the battery level and the recording time. We've got her, Mr. Morrison said quietly. Diana, I'm so sorry, but we've got her dead to rights. But Mom didn't just check the device. She sat down on my bed and pulled out her phone. And that's when we heard her voice through the camera's audio. Stephen, it's Mom. I need you to do something for me. My brother's voice came through the phone, tinny but clear. What is it, Mom? I'm at work. I need you to take the blame for something. What? Mom, what are you talking about? The listening device in Diana's apartment. The private investigator is going to find out about it soon. I need you to say you planted it. There was a long silence. Then, Mom, are you serious? You want me to confess to a crime I didn't commit? It's not a crime if it's family, Mom said, and the casual way she said it made my skin crawl. Diana won't press charges against her own brother, but if she finds out it was me, she'll never forgive me. She'll leave Stephen, just like she's planning to leave with that man. I'm not doing this, Stephen said. This is crazy. You need help, Mom. Stephen, listen to me. If you don't do this, I'll tell Diana about the money. What money? The money you've been taking from her business account. You think I don't know? I have access to everything, Stephen. I've been watching both of you for years. I know every secret, every lie, every little thing you've ever tried to hide from me. I gasped. Stephen had been stealing from me, and Mom had known about it? How much does she know? Stephen asked, his voice small. Enough to send you to prison if she wanted to. But she won't know as long as you do what I say. Tell the investigator you planted the device because you wanted to know Diana's bank passwords. Make it about money. That way, Diana will be angry, but she won't press charges. She'll just cut you out of the business. You can live with that, can't you? Better than prison. Another long silence. Then, this is blackmail, Mom. This is family, Mom corrected. We protect each other. That's what family does. I couldn't listen anymore. I stood up, knocking my chair backward. I need to go there. Now. I need to confront her. Diana, wait! Mr. Morrison started, but I was already heading for the door. Mr. Morrison and Jake followed me to my apartment. The whole drive, I was shaking with rage and heartbreak. My mother, my own mother, had been spying on me, controlling me, manipulating both Stephen and me for years. And she'd been prepared to destroy Stephen's life to keep her secret. When we burst into my apartment, Mom looked up from my bed, startled. The listening device was still in her hand. Diana, what are you doing here? I thought you were with Marcus. I heard everything, Mom, I said, my voice breaking. We've been recording you. I heard what you said to Stephen. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Sweetheart, you don't understand. I was just trying to protect you. That device, I found it, and I was going to remove it for you. Stop lying, I screamed. I know you planted it. I know you've been bugging me for months. I know you bugged Stephen 3 years ago. I know everything, Mom. She stood up, and for a moment I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before, something cold and calculating. But then her expression crumbled, and she started to cry. Diana, please. You have to understand. After your father died, you two were all I had left. I couldn't lose you. I just wanted to keep you safe, to know you were okay. Is that so wrong? Is it wrong for a mother to want to protect her children? Protect us! I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You weren't protecting us, Mom. You were controlling us, monitoring us. You've been manipulating our lives for years. I love you, she sobbed. Everything I've done has been because I love you. Diana, please. You're my daughter. You're my whole world. Don't do this to me. And there it was, the manipulation I'd been subjected to my whole life. The guilt trips, the tears, the implications that setting boundaries was somehow betraying her love. Mr. Morrison, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, what are my legal options here? Diana, no! Mom grabbed my arm. You can't do this to me. I'm your mother. Without you, I have nothing. I'll die without you, Deanna. I'll die! I pulled my arm away. You're not going to die, Mom, but I am going to press charges. What you did is illegal. It's stalking. It's invasion of privacy. And I'm done. Diana, please. I gave up everything for you. I raised you alone. You owe me this. I don't owe you my freedom, I said quietly. And I don't owe you my life. Mr. Morrison called the police while Mom alternated between sobbing apologies and screaming accusations. She told me I was ungrateful, that I was abandoning her just like my father had by dying. She said I'd regret this, that I'd come crawling back, that I needed her more than she needed me. But I stood firm, and as the police led her away, still crying and pleading, I felt something I hadn't felt in years free. The next few weeks were a nightmare of legal proceedings and family fallout. Stephen, once he understood what had really happened, was horrified. He came to see me at my apartment. I'd finally felt safe enough to move back in. After the police had thoroughly searched it and removed all of Mom's surveillance equipment. Diana, I'm so sorry, he said, sitting across from me at my kitchen table. I had no idea she'd been doing this to you, too. When she bugged me 3 years ago, I thought I was going crazy. I kept hearing things move in my apartment, finding things not where I'd left them. And Mom always seemed to know things I hadn't told her. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. I didn't know for sure it was her until she called me that night. And even then, I couldn't believe it. Our own mother, Diana. How do you process something like that? He looked so broken, so much younger than his 24 years. There's something else I need to tell you, he said quietly. What Mom said on the phone about the money, that's true. I've been taking money from your business account. Not a lot at a time, but over 2 years, it adds up to about $15,000. I felt a flash of anger, but it was tempered by exhaustion. I was so tired of being betrayed by the people I loved. Why, Stephen? Because I was jealous, he admitted. You built this amazing business, and I was just your employee. You were successful and independent, and I was still living with Mom, still dependent on her for everything. I wanted to prove I could make it on my own, so I started taking money to save up for my own apartment. I know that doesn't make it right. I know I stole from you. No, it doesn't make it right, I agreed. But Stephen, if you'd just asked me for help, I would have given you the money. I would have helped you get away from Mom. We could have done it together. I know that now, he said. I was stupid and proud, and I think Mom had messed with my head more than I realized. She always made me feel like I couldn't survive without her, like I'd fail at everything I tried. Taking the money felt like the only way to prove her wrong. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I said, "You're going to pay it back. Not all at once, I know you don't have that kind of money, but we'll set up a payment plan. And Stephen, you need to see a therapist. We both do. What Mom did to us, that's not normal. That's abuse, and we need help processing it." He nodded, tears in his eyes. I've already started looking for therapists. And Diana, I'm going to pay you back every penny. I promise. I believed him. Stephen had his flaws, but he was still my brother. And unlike Mom, he was capable of acknowledging what he'd done wrong and taking responsibility for it. The legal case against Mom was straightforward. The evidence was overwhelming the listening device with her fingerprints, the recordings of her checking it, the audio of her trying to coerce Stephen into taking the blame. The prosecution was pushing for jail time, but her lawyer was arguing for psychiatric treatment instead. I didn't care what she got, as long as she got help and stayed away from me. What she'd done was sick, and she needed treatment. But I also knew that I couldn't be the one to provide it or oversee it. I needed to be completely separated from her for my own mental health. Marcus was incredible through all of this. When I finally told him everything about the listening device, about Mom, about all of it, he didn't judge or pressure me. He just held me while I cried. "When you asked me about the money I borrowed, I knew something was wrong," he said. "You'd never questioned me about it before. I wanted to ask what was going on, but I didn't want to push. I'm sorry I doubted you," I said. "Even for a moment. Don't apologize. Someone was spying on you. Of course you suspected everyone. I just wish you'd felt like you could tell me sooner. I was afraid it might be you," I admitted, "and I couldn't handle the thought of losing you." He kissed my forehead. "You're not going to lose me, Diana. I'm here for as long as you want me." That conversation led to another one a few weeks later. We were having dinner at his apartment when he said, "I know the timing might not be perfect, but there's something I want to talk to you about." My heart started racing. "Okay, my company is transferring me back to the East Coast, to Boston specifically. I'll be managing the entire Northeast Division." He paused. "I want you to come with me." "Marcus, Let me finish," he said gently. "I know you have your business here. I know you're going through hell with your family situation. But Diana, I love you. I want a future with you. And I think maybe a fresh start, away from all of this, might be good for you." "What about my business?" I asked, though my heart was already saying yes. "You can run it from anywhere. Your boutique is online. You could hire photographers in Boston, or still come back to San Diego for shoots, or expand, have an East Coast line and a West Coast line. Diana, you're talented and creative and successful. Your business will thrive no matter where you are because you're the one running it. He was right. And the thought of leaving San Diego, of starting fresh somewhere Mom couldn't just show up at my door, was incredibly appealing. I need to think about it, I said. Not because I don't want to be with you, but because I need to make sure I'm making this decision for the right reasons. I can't run away from my problems. I need to face them and heal from them. I understand, Marcus said. Take all the time you need. Just know that wherever I am, I want you there too. Over the next few months, I focused on healing. I found a therapist who specialized in family trauma and enmeshment issues. Dr. Patricia Williams was in her 60s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that I desperately needed. What your mother did is called covert emotional incest, she explained in one of our early sessions. It's when a parent treats their child as a substitute spouse or emotional partner. She made you responsible for her emotional well-being, which is a form of abuse. But she said she just loved us too much, I protested, still struggling with the guilt. She said she was protecting us. Diana, love doesn't require surveillance. Protection doesn't require control. What your mother did wasn't love, it was possession. She treated you and Stephen like objects she owned, rather than people with your own autonomy and agency. Those words hit me hard. Dr. Williams helped me understand that the guilt I felt wasn't rational. It was programmed into me by years of Mom's manipulation. She taught me that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was necessary. That saying no wasn't abandonment, it was self-preservation. Your mother may never understand what she did wrong, Dr. Williams told me. She may never accept responsibility or apologize in a meaningful way. And you need to make peace with that. Your healing can't depend on her acknowledgement of the harm she caused. That was hard to accept, but it was also freeing. I didn't need Mom's validation or approval to move forward with my life. The court case concluded with Mom being sentenced to 18 months in a psychiatric facility with 5 years of probation afterward. The judge called her behavior deeply disturbing and noted that without intensive treatment, she would likely reoffend. I didn't attend the sentencing. I sent a victim impact statement through my lawyer, but I couldn't face her in person. I wasn't ready for that, and I might never be. Mom sent me letters from the facility. At first, they were apologetic. I'm so sorry for hurting you. I never meant to cause you pain. I just loved you so much that I couldn't let go. But as time went on and I didn't respond, the letters became accusatory. How can you abandon your mother like this? After everything I've done for you? You're going to regret treating me this way. I'm your mother. You owe me respect and loyalty. Dr. Williams advised me not to read them anymore. She's still trying to manipulate you, still trying to make you feel responsible for her feelings. You don't have to engage with that. So I stopped opening them. I had them forwarded to my lawyer, who kept them on file in case they were needed for legal purposes. But I didn't read them. I couldn't let Mom continue to have access to my emotional life. 6 months after the listening device incident, I made my decision. I was moving to Boston with Mark. It wasn't running away. I'd done the work in therapy to understand that. It was choosing my own future instead of letting my past dictate my present. It was building a life based on what I wanted, not what Mom had planned for me. Stephen was supportive. He'd moved into his own apartment paid for with legitimate savings this time and was working for a tech startup. He'd been faithfully paying me back the money he'd stolen, and we'd rebuilt our relationship slowly and carefully. I'm happy for you, he said when I told him about the move. You deserve to be happy, Diana. You deserve to live your own life. What about you? I asked. Will you be okay here? I'll be fine, he assured me. I'm seeing a therapist too, and I'm learning to set boundaries. Mom sent me some letters, but I haven't responded. I'm not ready to have her in my life again, and I might never be. And that's okay. I was proud of him. Stephen was finally becoming his own person, separate from Mom's influence. The day before I moved, I visited Dad's grave. I hadn't been there in years. Mom had always insisted we go together, and after she was arrested, I couldn't bring myself to visit. But now, alone, I felt like I could finally talk to him. "Hi, Dad," I said, sitting on the grass in front of his headstone. "I'm moving to Boston tomorrow with my boyfriend Marcus. You would have liked him. He's kind and supportive, and he treats me like an equal partner, not like something he owns." The words caught in my throat. "I wish you were here. Maybe if you hadn't died, Mom wouldn't have become so sick. Or maybe she always was, and you kept it in check. I don't know, but I miss you, and I'm sorry I haven't visited more." I sat there for a long time, watching the sunlight filter through the trees, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. "I'm going to be okay, Dad. It's been hard, but I'm going to be okay." The move to Boston was easier than I expected. Marcus had found us a beautiful apartment in the North End, with exposed brick walls and huge windows that let in tons, continue-deck 22 of natural light. I set up a home studio for my photography and found local models to work with. My business didn't just survive the move, it thrived. Being 3,000 miles away from San Diego, from Mom, from all the memories and trauma, allowed me to breathe in a way I hadn't been able to before. I could be myself without constantly looking over my shoulder, without jumping every time the phone rang, without wondering if someone was listening to my private conversations. Marcus and I grew closer. About a year after we moved to Boston, he proposed for real this time, with a ring and everything. We got married in a small ceremony with just close friends. Stephen flew out to be my man of honor, and it was perfect. I didn't invite Mom. I didn't even tell her about the wedding. She was still in the psychiatric facility, and even if she hadn't been, I wasn't ready to have her in my life. Maybe I never would be. Dr. Williams, who I continued to see via video sessions, supported this decision. You don't owe your mother access to your life milestones. You're allowed to celebrate your happiness without her presence. 2 years after the listening device incident, I received a call from Mom's court-appointed psychiatrist. "Miss Martinez, I'm calling to update you on your mother's progress. She's completed her treatment program and will be released next month on probation. Part of her release conditions include a restraining order. She's not allowed to contact you or come within 500 feet of you. But I wanted to let you know that she's made significant progress in understanding her behavior." "Has she?" I asked skeptically. "She's been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder with dependent features. She's learned to identify her triggers and is working on building a support system that doesn't rely solely on her children. I want to be clear, she may never fully comprehend the extent of the harm she caused you, but she's made more progress than many patients in her situation." "Thank you for letting me know," I said, "but I'm not interested in reconciliation. I have a restraining order, and I intend to keep it in place." "That's your right," the psychiatrist said, "and for what it's worth, I think that's probably the healthiest choice for you." After that call, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Mom was getting help, but that didn't mean I had to let her back into my life. I could wish her well from a distance while still protecting myself. Now, 3 years after finding that listening device under my bed, I'm happier than I've ever been. My business is more successful than ever. Marcus and I are talking about starting a family. Stephen and I video chat every week, and he's thriving in his own life. I still go to therapy. Probably always will. The trauma of what mom did doesn't just disappear. And I still have moments where I catch myself falling into old patterns, feeling guilty for setting boundaries, worrying excessively about people's approval, checking under my bed for listening devices, even though I know there aren't any. But I'm healing. I'm building a life based on mutual respect and healthy boundaries. I'm learning what real love looks like. Love that doesn't require surveillance or control. Love that celebrates independence rather than fearing it. If there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong in your relationships, even with family, especially with family, don't dismiss those feelings. I ignored red flags for years because I thought constant contact was caring, surveillance was concern, and control was protection. It wasn't. It was abuse. I'm 28 years old, and I'm finally living my own life. Not the life my mother planned for me, not the life she tried to control and monitor, but my own life. And you know what? It's pretty damn good. My apartment is bug-free. My phone doesn't ring 17 times if I don't answer. My life is private, and it's mine. I've learned that privacy isn't just about locking doors. It's about setting boundaries and honoring your own autonomy. And I've learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone who claims to love you but refuses to respect you. To anyone out there dealing with a controlling family member, please know you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not ungrateful or selfish for wanting your own life. You deserve autonomy. You deserve privacy. You deserve to make your own choices without someone monitoring your every move. And if you find a listening device under your bed, call the police, call a private investigator. But most importantly, trust yourself. Trust that what you're experiencing isn't normal, isn't love, and isn't something you have to accept. I wish I'd trusted myself sooner, but I'm trusting myself now, and that's what matters. My name is Diana Martinez, and this is my story. Thank you for listening.